I've been hiking alone for years. Weekends, summers, whenever work gave me a long enough leash. Out there, with the trees and the silence, it was the only place I could breathe properly. The forest I chose that weekend wasn't even that remote, just a slice of wilderness between two small towns, stitched together by a crumbling service road and an old fire trail. It was early spring. Snow still clung to the shadows under the trees, stubborn and dirty, but the ground was thawing. Birds were louder. The air smelled sharp, alive. Perfect. The official trail ended at a ridgeline where an old ranger station used to sit. I'd seen photos, nothing left but a foundation and some broken beams, but I wanted to find it anyway. Stand where people once stood and imagine what the world looked like when this place still had purpose. When I got there, the ruins were even sadder than I expected. A few concrete blocks. A rusted sign half buried under fallen branches. No shelter. No view. Just a tired clearing on the side of a hill. I thought about turning back. But then I saw it. A path. Thin. Barely there. Leading off the clearing, down the slope, into thicker woods. It wasn't part of the map trail network. I checked twice, once on my printed map, once on my phone. Nothing. No dotted lines. No service roads. No fire breaks. But there it was, worn into the earth by time and footsteps. Faint. Almost apologetic. Like it was trying not to be seen. I stood there for a long time. Just looking at it. Trying to convince myself I had better things to do. That I should follow my original plan, circle back to the main trailhead, get a good dinner, maybe hit a cheap motel. But there's something about an unlabeled path that pulls at a certain kind of person. The ones who want to believe they're still capable of discovery. That the world still has secrets it hasn't given up yet. I tightened the straps on my pack and started down. At first, it felt like any other overgrown service trail. Narrow. Uneven. Branches snagged at my sleeves. Roots rose like veins under the melting snow. Every dozen steps I'd lose the thread of the path and have to find it again with my eyes, like tracking an animal. The deeper I went, the stranger it got. Not wrong. Just out of place. Trees didn't match the ones higher up, older, thicker, gnarled in ways that looked almost sculpted. The air, too. Still sharp, but somehow flat. Like sound didn't carry the way it should. I heard myself breathing louder than normal. My boots crunching louder on the half-frozen ground. No birdsong. No wind. Just me. And that creeping sense that I wasn't entirely alone. After maybe 40 minutes the path widened. Not much. Just enough to suggest it had been used once. Deliberately. I saw things in the undergrowth that didn't belong. Splinters of rotted wood half swallowed by moss. A coil of rusted wire stretched like a broken spine between two trees. And, strangest of all, a signpost. Fallen, weathered to the point of illegibility. Only one word was still visible. Return. I took a photo of it. Thought maybe it was some kind of joke left by hikers. But when I checked my phone, the photo was corrupted. Just a black square. And the signal? Gone. No bars. No GPS. Nothing. I tried to laugh it off. But my throat was dry. And that's when I noticed something else. My footprints, the ones leading into the trail, were gone. Snow still covered parts of the path behind me, but it was smooth. Untouched. Like nothing had ever passed that way. Including me. I turned around immediately. It was pure instinct, like pulling your hand back from a flame before your brain even processes the heat. But when I faced the way I'd come, it wasn't there. The path. Gone. No crushed branches. No muddy boot prints. Only untouched snow and an unbroken line of undergrowth staring back at me like it had never been disturbed. I told myself I must have gotten turned around. Lost track of where I stepped. Maybe the trail just blended back into the trees if you weren't paying attention. I forced myself to breathe slow. Count to 4 in. Hold. 4 out. I'd find it. I always did. I started retracing my steps, or what I thought were my steps. 5 minutes. 10. No trail. The trees grew closer. The ground sloped in ways it hadn't before. And there was something else. A smell. Faint at first. Sweet. Rotting. Not like dead animals or damp earth. More like forgotten things. Clothes left too long in a shut house. Fruit left in the sun. Memories sealed too long in plastic. I found another marker. Not a sign this time. A cairn. A stack of stones, carefully balanced in the center of a small clearing. Too neat. Too deliberate. Someone had been here. Recently. The stones weren't frozen together or mossed over. They looked almost clean. I circled it. Not sure why. Superstition maybe. Some old instinct not to approach things left by hands you can't see. That's when I heard it. A voice. From deeper in the woods. Not loud. Not desperate. Just casual. Almost conversational. I couldn't make out the words, but it had the cadence of someone speaking to a companion. Warm, even amused. I froze. It was broad daylight, but the trees felt taller now. Tighter. The sky was a narrow slit of gray far overhead. I called out. Hello? The voice stopped immediately. Silence swallowed the clearing so fast I wondered if I'd imagined it. Then, footsteps. Not a rush. Not a retreat. Just a slow, deliberate crunching in the snow beyond my sight line. Moving around me. Circling. I spun in place trying to catch a glimpse between the trees. Nothing. But I could feel it. Whoever, or whatever, it was, they weren't trying to hide. They were showing me they were there. I decided to move. Not toward the voice. Away from it. Downhill. I figured if I kept descending I'd eventually hit a stream, a road, something. But every direction felt wrong. North looked south. Down felt flat. The trees blurred together, their shapes warping until the forest itself felt like it was breathing. And above it all, faint but insistent, the scent grew stronger. Not death. Not life. Something between. After what felt like an hour I stumbled onto another path. Or maybe it stumbled onto me. It was too neat to be random. Dirt packed under the snow. Old, but clear. Leading deeper into the woods, bending out of sight behind a low rise. I knew I shouldn't follow it. Every hair on my body screamed. But when I turned to go the other way, there it was. Another cairn. Identical to the first. Stacked perfectly. Waiting. And between the stones, something glinted. Metal. I bent down. Brushed the snow away. It was a key. Old. Brass. No markings. Attached to a strip of faded red fabric. Tied with a simple knot. Waiting. Like someone had left it for me. I slipped the key into my pocket without thinking. It felt wrong to leave it there, like ignoring a hand extended to you in the dark. But the second I stood up, something shifted. The air. The trail. The trees. It wasn't that they moved. It was that they were already different when I looked back up. The path behind me had sealed itself shut with thick undergrowth and new snow. And ahead, the trail was wider now. More distinct. Like it had been waiting for me to make a choice. I should have turned back. Fought through the brambles. Scrambled uphill. Anything but what I did. Which was follow the new trail. Because somehow, some tiny stubborn part of me still believed I could find my way out if I just kept moving. The trees thickened fast. Ancient pines and twisted birches leaning together overhead, forming a tunnel that swallowed the sky. The light dimmed. Even though it couldn't have been past mid-afternoon, it felt like twilight now. The kind of twilight that comes when the sun isn't setting but hiding. I kept moving. The trail beneath my boots grew smoother. More deliberate. No more roots to trip me. No sudden turns. It guided me. Shepherded me. And with every step, I realized something that should have terrified me but somehow didn't. The trail wasn't old. It was new. Being made. For me. Every few hundred feet, I passed something embedded in the trees. A torn scrap of fabric fluttering from a branch. A child's shoe, half buried in moss. A Polaroid photo nailed to a trunk, the image long faded to pale ghost shapes. All of it looked placed. Arranged. Curated. As if whoever, or whatever, had made the trail wanted me to recognize these offerings. Then the markers changed. Less random. More personal. A tattered notebook, identical to the one I used for trail notes. A broken watch, same model as the one my grandfather wore. A lighter with my initials scratched into the side. Things I had owned. Things I had lost over the years. Somehow, impossibly, they had found their way here. Waiting in the trees like breadcrumbs. Or bait. I started walking faster. Not running. Not yet. But the part of me that loved the woods, loved the silence, was shrinking fast. Now every crunch of my boots sounded like a gunshot. Every breath clouded too thickly in the air. Every shadow between the trees seemed to lean closer, reaching just slightly too far. And through it all there was the scent. Stronger now. Like something ripening. Finally, the trail curved. A wide, graceful arc leading into a clearing. At the center of the clearing. A cabin. Small. Unpainted. Its wood gray with age, the roof bowed under the weight of old snow. Smoke rose from a crooked chimney, thin and blue. A lantern burned by the door. No footprints in the clearing. No tire tracks. No signs of life. But I knew, whoever had built this trail was waiting inside. And they had been waiting for a long, long time. I didn't move at first. Just stood at the tree line, staring across the clearing. The cabin sat too still. The smoke from the chimney curled perfectly into the sky, never breaking, never scattering. Like it wasn't smoke at all, but something solid, something wrong pretending to be real. And the door. Slightly ajar. Just enough to see darkness yawning inside. I whispered to myself. Nope. No. Not doing this. I took a step back. Then another. But the trail behind me was gone. Only trees now. Endless. No path. No footprints. Not even my own. The clearing was the only open space left. And the cabin the only structure. Like a stage. And me. The only actor who hadn't yet delivered his line. I circled the edge of the clearing first. Slow, careful. Keeping the cabin in my peripheral vision. It didn't change. Didn't react. But the closer I got to the back side, the colder the air became. Sharper. More metallic. Like breathing in blood. There was a window near the rear corner. Dirty. Frosted with grime. I wiped it with my sleeve, peering inside. Nothing. Just dark shapes. Furniture, maybe. No movement. No flicker of light. But pressed against the inside of the glass, barely visible, was the outline of a handprint. Small. Too small to be mine. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The snow at my feet shifted, collapsed inward. And underneath, a second key. This one silver. Newer. Tied with a strip of black fabric. The same knot as the first. I didn't pick it up. Not this time. Instead, I backed my way around to the front. The door still hung open. The lantern still burned. The scent from earlier, the one I couldn't name, was heavier now. It coated my tongue. Slick and oily. Like the air itself didn't want to be breathed. I called out. "Hello? Anyone inside?" Silence. Then, the faint creak of floorboards shifting under weight. Not rushed. Not fearful. Just expectant. I could have left. Maybe should have. I could have bolted into the woods, crashed through the trees until I found a road to fence anything. But some part of me knew. This place had been built for me. Not by hands. Not by logic. By memory. By something that knew me better than I knew myself. I stepped inside. The floor groaned under my weight. Dust motes spun in the lantern's thin glow. The cabin was empty. No chairs. No table. No stove. Just walls. And in the center of the floor, a trapdoor. It wasn't locked. Wasn't hidden. It was left open a crack. Just wide enough to see the darkness yawning below. And from that darkness, the faintest sound. Not a voice. Not breathing. Something older. Hungrier. The kind of sound that exists only when you're finally quiet enough to hear it. I crouched by the trapdoor and listened. Nothing human came from below. No voices. No cries for help. Only that endless, low hum, like breath being drawn through a hollow place deep underground. The darkness inside the trapdoor didn't behave like normal dark. It wasn't an absence of light. It felt heavy. Alive. Almost curious. For a long time I didn't move. Frozen there on my haunches, heart pounding in my ears louder than any noise from below. Then something shifted. The darkness rippled. A single sound rose out. Tom. My name. Whispered almost warmly. Almost like a mother calling a child home after sunset. Except, no one out here knew my name. I stood up so fast I nearly lost my balance. The cabin seemed smaller now. The walls closer. The ceiling lower. Or maybe it wasn't the cabin shrinking. Maybe it was the forest pushing inward. Crushing me into a shape it could use. I stumbled for the door. Found it wide open. But the clearing outside wasn't the same. The trail was gone. Replaced by dense walls of trees knitted together like flesh, like ribs grown too tight. There was only one path now. Down. I turned back to the trapdoor. The black fabric key from outside burned hot in my pocket. I didn't remember picking it up. But it was there. Heavy against my thigh. Waiting. I realized then. The keys weren't for unlocking anything. They were tethers. Waiting me to this place, binding my memory to it so it could shape itself around me. A second voice called up from the dark. This one younger. Familiar. "Hey, are you still coming?" It was my brother's voice. Soft. From a summer long gone. An afternoon when I was 12 and he was 9, shouting for me to hurry up across the creek. That day ended in blood and ambulance sirens. He hadn't called for me in years. Hadn't been able to. I pressed my palms to my ears. Stepped back from the trapdoor. But the sound was inside me now. Blooming. Feeding. It wasn't memories playing tricks. It was the place itself. Trawling through my life. Finding moments that would root me here. Moments that still hurt. Still bled. I turned to leave the cabin. And stopped. Someone stood in the doorway. No face. No features. Just a silhouette. Tall. Swaying slightly as if breathing with the forest. The lantern behind it guttered and died. Leaving me alone with the shape. Then the whisper came again, from everywhere at once. Come back to where you started. I didn't think. Didn't plan. I bolted. Straight through the darkened clearing, branches tearing at my clothes, snow blind in my eyes. I ran until my lungs screamed. Until the trees blurred past me like water. Until I found a trail. At first, I thought it was the real trail. The one I'd started on that morning. Same width. Same slope. Same feel under my boots, the way packed earth feels just before it thaws fully. Hope bloomed sharp and painful in my chest. Maybe I'd gotten turned around. Maybe all of this was some freak panic attack. A trick of the cold and hunger. Maybe I'd hallucinated the cabin, the voices, the keys. Maybe. I started walking fast. Faster than I should have given how unsteady the ground was, but the adrenaline pushed me. The path wound steadily downward, the trees thinning slightly as the terrain flattened. Signs of life began to appear again. An old trail marker nailed to a leaning tree. A crumpled soda can half buried in the snow. A scrap of orange nylon from a lost tent. Trash. People. Proof that civilization was close. I practically stumbled into the next clearing. A broader one. At its center. A signpost. Real. Metal. Bolted into the ground. The kind that shows trail splits and mileage. My heart leapt. But when I got closer I saw there was only one arrow. Pointing straight ahead. No trail names. No mile markers. Only 2 words, printed in faded black paint. To remember. My mouth went dry. The key in my pocket felt heavier. Throbbing like a second heartbeat. The ground beneath the sign was wrong too. Not soil. Not gravel. Something packed and hard. Smoother than it should have been. I kicked some snow aside. Concrete. A slab. Old and cracked. Faint letters chiseled into it, half obscured. Memory Foundation 1967. Shape the past, hold the future. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. This wasn't a trail. It was a loop. A system. Built for no one to leave the same way they entered. Built to keep something fed. The forest around me had grown too quiet. No wind. No birds. Even my own breathing sounded wrong now. Like it belonged to someone else's body. And then. The trees shifted. Not moved. Not bent. Shifted. Like a ripple under the skin of the world. I saw another figure ahead. Standing right where the trail narrowed again. From the distance, it looked like a man. Heavy jacket. Pack slung over one shoulder. Staring down the path like he was trying to decide something. I called out. Hey! You okay? He didn't move. Didn't turn. Just kept standing there. I jogged closer, boots slipping on half-frozen mud. 50 feet. 30. 10. I reached out. Tapped his shoulder. He toppled over like a dropped puppet. Hollow. An empty jacket. Empty boots. Empty backpack. No person. No body. Just clothes standing on their own until they weren't. And pinned to the back of the jacket. Another key. Silver. Threaded through the fabric like a brand. I left it. Didn't even touch it. Just backed away. Hands shaking. As the world around me rippled again. The trees breathing. The sky spinning. And faintly over it all. The whisper. Return. You have always belonged here. I stumbled backward down the trail. Boots slipping in mud that hadn't been there a moment ago. The trees watched me now. I could feel it. Their branches knotted into shapes almost but not quite like hands. And the trail under my feet. It wasn't leading out anymore. It was leading down. I remembered something then. A stupid old story a ranger once told me during a winter hike. About how people lost in the woods sometimes find themselves walking in circles. No matter how hard they try to move straight. Because the mind when panicked folds space inside itself. Because memory is heavier than sense. And because some places help it happen. I knew I had to anchor myself. Leave a mark. A trail. Something to fight whatever this place was doing to me. I pulled out my knife. Scraped a long line into the nearest tree deep enough to bleed sap. Then another. And another. Every 10 feet another slash. A breadcrumb trail. Primitive. Desperate. But mine. It worked. For a while. The path straightened. The trees stopped shifting. I found myself climbing a shallow ridge. Real ground underfoot again. The air smelled cleaner. Almost fresh. I even found footprints in the snow ahead. Real ones. Human. I didn't dare hope yet. But my heart started hammering in a new rhythm. One word pulsing in my skull. Escape. At the top of the ridge, the trail forked. One path veered left toward a break in the trees. Sunlight spilled through there. Real sunlight. The other path dipped right steeper and darker. Naturally, I chose left. I ran. Didn't even care about footing anymore. Branches tore at my jacket. My boots sank ankle deep in thawing soil. But the light got closer. Brighter. I burst through the break. And found myself. Back at the clearing. The cabin. Still there. Still smoking. Still waiting. I screamed. An ugly, broken sound that tore my throat raw. The trees swallowed it whole. Not even an echo. In the snow at my feet. A new cairn. Built since I'd left. Balanced stones, smaller than the others. Almost delicate. And on top. A brass key. My first one. The one I'd found at the first cairn. Waiting. I tried to throw it. Launch it into the trees. But my hand wouldn't open. My fingers locked tight around the cold brass until the edges cut my palm. Blood welled up. Bright red against the snow. And when it touched the key, the earth trembled. Just slightly. Like something underneath the clearing exhaled. The cabin door creaked open wider. Not by wind. Not by chance. An invitation. And deep inside from below the trapdoor I heard my own voice call out. You left something behind. Come finish it. I don't remember walking back to the cabin. 1 minute I was staring at the clearing, willing my body to move somewhere, anywhere, else. The next, I was standing at the threshold. The key still in my bleeding hand. the trapdoor still yawning open at the center of the floor. The scent of old wood, old earth, and older memories choking the air. The cabin was quieter now. More still. Like it knew it had already won. I thought about running. Thought about fighting. But those thoughts felt like they belonged to someone else. Someone who hadn't already stepped too deep into the mouth of the thing wearing the forest like a mask. I stepped forward. The floor groaned. The trapdoor widened. And the voice called again. Not angry, not pleading. Just, inevitable. You remember us. That's enough. I looked down. At first, all I saw was blackness. Then something shifted in the dark. Shapes. Twisting. Reaching. Not people. Not things. Impressions. Memories worn thin from being replayed too many times. Faces missing features. Places missing names. Songs missing melodies. It wanted me to join them. To add my voice to the chorus it kept stitched into its roots. I fell to my knees. Not from weakness. From understanding. This place. The trail, the cabin, the cairns. It wasn't built to trap bodies. It was built to trap the pieces people leave behind. The guilt. The grief. The memories no one else wanted. It fed on the broken pieces we try to forget. And it remembered better than we ever could. I pulled the brass key from my pocket. Stared at it. The fabric still tied in a perfect knot. A tether. A promise. I thought about throwing it into the darkness. But that wouldn't matter. The key wasn't the trap. I was. Somewhere behind me, the cabin door creaked closed. Snow began to fall again. Soft heavy flakes drifting sideways like ash. I wasn't cold. I wasn't anything. Only aware of the pull. The gravity of unfinished memory. Of the trail that never ended, only circled. I closed my eyes. Listened. Not to the voices. But to the silence between them. The part that hadn't been devoured yet. The part of me that could still choose. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing at the trailhead. Back where it all started. The ruins of the ranger station behind me. My car waiting at the dusty lot, just beyond the trees. The sun setting slow and gold behind the hills. Perfect. Normal. But when I looked down, the brass key was still in my hand. Warm. Heavy. Waiting. I got in my car. Drove away. Haven't gone hiking since. Haven't even looked at the woods. But some nights, when the house is too quiet, I hear the sound of crunching snow just outside my window. I hear someone whisper my name. Not angry. Not pleading. Just waiting. And in my dreams, there's always a trail I almost remember. A trail that's still building itself. For me.